And so it would be preferably people who've already done the facilitator training who are at a certain level that they could, and the intention is that this is meant to take them from the facilitator training to actually doing it in groups. And eventually it will be a paid offering, but in this first one, we'd really like to co-design it with the community. And it's actually, you know, kind of a big deal to create a case study and maybe a video case study, like a video diary or something like that. And, you know, we just like to support people in doing that. So that's that one offering.
Okay. And do you have a date to be started?
Yeah, well, we've got about 7 or 8 people from the last training who want to do it. And it's just, my intention was to get it started in the next 2 months. Basically, my time frame now, Robert and Claire Reid are teaching the Americas course, the Next Americas course. I'm just going to be a coach on it. And my sister Pip and Jim Lemon are teaching the UK course that's starting now in May. And I'm sort of stepping back from the facilitator training side of it a little bit in order to coordinate the whole training offering and rejig the training a fair bit. And the intention is to launch a new suite of training in June, July. Okay. Now, you know, a lot of the translation that you're doing now hopefully will still, I think it'll still be useful, but it's just going to look a bit different. And so, you know, there is a bit of work there, but I think if we can, very much would like to involve you in that process. So and maybe we can move it more towards a model that you think would work well for Brazil, you know, Latin America, particularly if we're funded. Like if this TWCF grant comes through, then we're actually funded to build some training together to do that. I was a bit reluctant to share this with you because my thinking's moved on even since this, but I do want to share with you sort of basic ideas of some of the, so this is very, very much in draft, okay? So
okay, no worries. It's just going to be with us. We won't be sharing to the community itself.
Yeah. If you go down to that table, though, on page 6.
Are you sharing, Paul?
Oh, I can share if you want. It's in the chat line. There's a
Google sorry. Okay.
If you go down to page 6, there's we're sort of thinking, broadly speaking, that there's like 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, maybe. I don't know. We might not need that. But at the introductory level, 100 level, one of the things I've been trying to do is to have a separate offering for psychological flexibility and a separate offering for facilitation skills, because the two things that people come in with or don't, they might already know psychological flexibility really well. They might already know facilitation really well or not. And so we wanted to make those modules kind of separate and then have a shorter, more intense introduction to the prosocial model. So what I was thinking of, and you know, I'm very open to feedback at this stage, we can change this, but we thought if we could have a introduction to prosocial that just introduces the ideas in a video that's free for everyone. Anyone can access it. It's really easy, but maybe that we build some, you know, a few questions in at the end, and then we give them a course completion certificate. But it's basically a free course. That's you know, a couple of hours, and it's all asynchronous. Then they have the option of, depending on what they already know, they have the option of taking pathways where they either go to psychological flexibility, facilitation skills, or straight into the prosocial model training. And they can choose those modules. The psychological flexibility course and the facilitation training, well, the facilitation training, we're probably going to use an external provider that does like proper facilitation training. And that we've already talked with them about a model that could happen over 4 2-hour workshops. And psychological flexibility might be something similar. So we try not to make it too big, but we're trying to make it staged so they get the ideas. I'm a little unsure about I think the psychological flexibility doesn't have to happen before the training. I think it could be that they just do facilitation and then the prosocial model, and then they deepen their understanding with the psychological flexibility. They're not really doing prosocial though until they're using psychological flexibility. So I'm a bit unsure about that. One other thing I'm unsure about is whether we can shift to a model that's more like the content is online, and then each week we just have come along to a coaching session if you want to ask questions. So some other courses that I've done, for instance, it's more, there's a remote training, and then they just have weekly coaching session, group coaching sessions. And if we did that, we could have like a drop-in session for talking about psychological flexibility, for instance, which I think could be a really good thing because people could continue to develop their skills there. So that's 100 level, and then 200 level, not really clear, but it's the leading prosocial in practice is probably our main model. Robert and Laurie are working on a prosocial for business, or originally I was thinking that we need prosocial for hierarchical organizations and prosocial for non-hierarchical organizational groups, you know, because that seems to me to be the big distinction is between, you know, groups that are already tightly structured and groups that are loosely structured. And so maybe we'll end up with that distinction in the courses. I don't think there's a fundamental distinction between business and government, at least in Australia there's not. They're both basically businesses in terms of organisations. One thing that I did think of when you were presenting your slides, the ecosystem dialogues, were they just was your function there to try to generate interest? Like why did you want to have the ecosystem dialogues?
That will be to share experiences in a practical way so people can understand a little bit more and get involved in what it is. Because usually this is open and this is free. We don't charge for that. This is like sharing experience, right? So as people can understand what is actually prosocial and how people is using, and we can start having different references from the world.
One thing you might consider when you're talking with Laurie, Laurie now she convenes the America's Community of Practice. And if you wanted to combine with her so that we could promote those dialogues or basically make them one thing for 3 months, you know, so you can do whatever you want. Like you can sort of potentially take over the community of practice stream for 3 months. And I think that would be great because the community of practice stream is not really going so strongly yet. And so it's hard to get these things going. And I think if we can combine efforts, that would be good. So she's already got a regular monthly slot that's on an American time zone that would work for you, I think. Okay, so that's my broad idea about the sort of training setup I want to have in place by July. Okay.
Okay.
That's our time frame, is to try to have that. And we're operating on, I'm going to put up a training calendar, broadly speaking, with that structure as soon as possible. Having said that, it's all up for tweaking and changing potentially, I think. And if we do get funded with the TWCF, then, you know, I'm very, and even without that funding, I'm still very interested to get your input and on the training design that you need.
Okay. Okay, we have two training designs that I'm thinking about. You do have this intro for facilitators, or you won't have it anymore? You will have, that's the one that you just showed in the Google Docs, right? That's the intro.
Yeah, well, so what we'd be doing is in the Google Doc, if we go this way, we won't have the 10-week beginner to end course if we went this way. Okay. But what we would have would be we'd separate those materials into separate. So the psychological, we'd pull out the personal matrix piece.
Yep.
But we'd keep all the rest in a smaller course. Now, I haven't actually designed that smaller course yet, but it's the one that I'm talking about in PFT Part 4, Facilitating the Prosocial Art Process. Okay.
Now, I believe it's going to be much better. And that's research and evaluating process intervention. It's going to be an extra one, or it will be included onto this prosocial in practice that you mentioned that you're developing with Robert?
Yeah, that was just an idea of mine. You'll notice I said it's free. I imagine it's going to be fairly short. It'll just be like a few modules that we would record about how to use our tools for that. But one other thing I did want to say is this whole Miro thing has happened since I wrote this document. And so if we can create a kind of guided experience through Miro, I don't know if we can do that, but I think what would be really good for translation purposes would be if we had a standard beautiful Miro board that was beautiful and we just translated it, and then you could add on extra slides to explain things in PowerPoint separately, but you could have that separate and you'd have more control. But we had one standard prosocial journey that went through the key tools in a group in some way or other, I think would be really helpful. Yeah. And that actually reminds me of another thing that I'd love to kick off with you, which is, one of the benefits of now being a not-for-profit is we've actually been successful in getting a really top-notch US legal firm that's giving us support pro bono, which means we can now afford to have lawyers looking at agreements. And I think what would be really helpful would be if we could, I mean, I don't know what the ordering is with this, but one of the first agreements I want to create is an agreement with CollabSol to get clear on, you know, issues like branding and licensing, and or if I don't know whether we'll do licensing, but how do we have a between organisations agreement around this, which we really need soon. And I want that to be. I apologise it hasn't happened sooner, but you're the first group that we're really closely partnering with, and so I would like it to be, you know, obviously for you to be involved right from the start in terms of your needs and so on. And the spirit of this is we really want to see collab souls succeed. Your heart's in the right place. We really want to support that and, you know, make it as easy as possible. And we know that you're operating in a space where, you know, it's hard to make much money and there's a lot of pro bono time going in and so on. So, you know, but I just think that we're not really doing pro-social unless we actually have this discussion about agreements in you know, based around the core design principles. And yeah, so I would like that. And what I'll do with that is, what I would suggest I do is talk to them first of all and see if we can draft something which we can then start bringing you into in terms of a conversation about your needs and interests. But if you want to flag for us, you know, an existing agreement you've got, or if you've got a list of criteria that you'd like to see in place, the main things that we need to sort out are just agree on how you use the brand. We need to agree, or if you use the brand, depending on your needs, we need to agree on materials and we also need, I think, to agree around, you know, the updating and the involvement of you in updating and so on. I'm not sure how that looks because that's more just our relationship. I'm not very experienced in all this stuff, so I don't know how it's going to look, but I do know that we need to be having the conversations because at the moment, just as one example, Laurie is really concerned about use of the brand, not from you particularly, but just in general. She's concerned about use of the, like, we're basically saying to people, you can modify the materials any way you like, and you can use our brand. And so we're starting to see some examples of stuff with our brand on it and stuff that we would not say on the slide. And we need to control that. And it's nothing to do with you, but that's something we need to get clear on.
No, this is important.
Yeah.
And it's okay, Paul. We don't have that. It's going to be the first time we're having this type of experience of doing this type of thing, of translating and helping, assisting, and not working as a brand, you know, like, okay, here's setup and then you do this, and no, it's not what we would like to do. It's actually to be part of the movement and assist. So for example, having these people now that we are having to help us with the strategy of communication and have Laurie, is like, how can we work together as a community and see how that works? Because we wanted to add, we don't want it to share, and we don't want it to sell it or anything. We wanted to transform. So it's a little different, I think, what we're doing. So whatever comes from your lawyer, we can read it, and then we can see what it is. And if that it's a combination of agreements that it's okay for all of us, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if this is really important though, because I don't want to waste time on creating an agreement between Collab Soul and Prosocial World. If you're operating as Prosocial World Brazil, like the circle of Prosocial World Brazil, then there's no issue. You know, you're basically just leading that effort. So I think we need to get clear on that one. Is that how you see yourself, as sort of a circle of Prosocial World in Brazil? Because if that's the case, then that's great. But
no, actually, we call ourselves Prosocial World. Right. Let me show you. We just call Prosocial World in Brazil, but we don't have that as a brand. You know, like we just put like whoever would like to see prosocial cases in Brazil, they can see somewhere. But it's just because there was not in Facebook, Instagram. But in Facebook, we don't have any interest in being separate. Yeah. The only thing that we already have as a segregation is the language. You know, like how do you welcome people to Prosocial World just in channels which is in English? Yeah. So this is the only issue that we put Prosocial World Brazil because it's the Portuguese part. But we can start thinking that's what I would like. if we can think about combinations where we can share, like, for example, the blog that you already have in your website, how can I have that in Portuguese? You know, like exactly the same one. I don't need to add anything else.
Okay.
It's just like putting the hyperlinks to the website that is done so we can share, you know? So this is what we were thinking about, how we can add, not how we can divide or make a segregation of something that we don't believe it's segregated. We as humans, we did, right? Due to language or many different aspects. But
well,
I see as ourselves as a whole.
Yeah, I get it. That's clear. And I'm really glad we had this little conversation, because actually we don't just forget about everything I said about the lawyers. But I do still think that we need an agreement for circles, you know, we need to talk about what it means to be a part of Prosocial World, but it's probably not a legal conversation. It's more like a conversation about amongst us about what it means for the Prosocial World movement to have a Portuguese speaking community.
Yeah.
And that's a different conversation. So that's good. That's really helpful already. In that case, I think I'll go down that route rather than the sort of legal agreement route.
Legal agreement is going to be needed for some reason, because now you guys are going to be a huge organization which has to answer for some legal topics and aspects, I believe. But it's not something that I need to have and emphasize or have a stamp on our agreement or in our relationship. So for example, I'm going to tell you, like, people, I'm going to share so you can see, right? Because that's what we've done it exactly the same. We just put it into Portuguese, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So people could read it in Australia, Europe.
Is that our website or?
No, this is our Collabso website, which we put the /Prosocial. So people can actually link. So now what we need to talk with Laurie is because we wanted to create hyperlinks that we can talk with the community in your new website. So since I don't know, we wanted to put both teams together so we can actually start adding those. But here we have the program. So like week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. And the facilitators, we put yourself and Robert, right? Like facilitators, Paul, Robert, and then FLB. And this is what we're doing Prosocial and media. But everything is Prosocial World. And then we just put Journey in Brazil, like, so we can start talking about that. So beginning, we were using Prosocial Institute, what you said. So when we had the scholarships for people and who were actually applying, who were gaining, right? So this is what we do, Prosocial World and Collab. So this is what we are doing, right? That's what we just launched it in March because our website just got ready. So we decided to make something separate, but it would be too expensive to have 2 websites, like for Collabso and Prosocial. And because we believe we are all same umbrella, right?
Yeah. But we do need to, I think we do need to have this conversation with Laurie.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to Laurie first, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe Laurie handles it, or maybe we'll have a bigger conversation that involves me again. I'm going to have to go in a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to say that I've got on my to-do list to basically support you with the translator if you need it, okay, for the book. The only thing that was on my list that I just wanted to share with you in addition is we're very actively looking at learning management systems, and we're basically comparing a commercial learning management system that handles the advantage of that. Well, the advantage of that is it's got a shop front and it handles affiliate payments and all that sort of thing, so that we can revenue share with people who put courses up there and who bring trainees along. They can get an affiliate payment and all that sort of stuff. And we're comparing that to the open source platforms like Moodle and Canvas. which we're already using in Prosocial Schools. By the way, Prosocial Schools is taking off. They are developing a massive amount of materials, like lesson plans for teachers, assessment systems for, so to the extent that Prosocial can go into schools, we would really like that to be a big part of, I think we should talk more about that. That could well be a big part of the TWCF thing, would be to really focus on schools, because it's just a perfect testing ground for Prosocial. And anyway, I just wanted to let you know that we're looking at creating an LMS. Ideally, one of the really big features that we want is language support on that LMS. And actually both platforms that we're looking at, I think, do auto-translate into Portuguese, but we just, for the LMS features, and then obviously the content needs to be, translated by us. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. William already told us also that he has 2 people that could be added, and one of them is a professor who's researching in education. And he's fortunately from our hometown. So one of the projects for education that we would like to add and see what is he doing. And he's probably going to be funded by the grant from what I understood. Then we can talk about and start building up and adding him into the community, Brazilian community.
Wait, he's going to be funded by the TWCF grant?
Yeah, that's what I understood from Wilson's conversation last Friday.
Yeah, I understood he's already taking part in this funding, I think, in his CV. So yeah. I think anyway, it's great to see that he's in the same town as us, and we are very happy to have a research guy on the board. So we hope to be in contact very soon with him.
Yeah, wonderful.
I know you need to leave, but that's okay. Wilson said that he would send me 2 contacts so we can get in contact to see how we can promote better Prosocial in Brazil. So I'm not really sure if he's going to send it to me or we're going to have anything to be talked after.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see how that unfolds. I'm just smiling because David's so positive and optimistic, and sometimes it's like, yeah, we could do that, and I'm like, I don't know where the money is for that, but yeah.
Let's think about it. Yes.
We can make it happen one way or another.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to have an extra meeting? I can record a couple of things that you mentioned and ask for feedbacks regarding the training. I can send it to you, and then we can just chit chat in the message and email, or would you like to have a meeting for that?
Let's chat in the email to start with, and then see if we need a meeting. Does that sound okay?
Okay. Yeah, it is, because then I can get I have some questions and I would like to see, and also what we're doing and how we can combine from now on. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.